Brooke accuses Katie of trying to drive Eric to the grave, and Elektra doubles down on her ultimatum to Will. Moment on Bold and the Beautiful, Eric comes clean to Brooke and Ridge, and Elektra and will independently deal with their relationship. Bill called the paramedics for Eric. At Eric's, Ridge tells his father how sorry he is. Eric days he needs respect. He's not unskillful or feeble. A paramedic tells him his breathing is labored. He points out his family is stressing him out. He just wants to get into his bed. Ridge and Donna help him up the stairs. Brooke starts bellowing at Katie. I can't believe what you've done. Donna returns to get between the sisters. Brooke continues to accuse Katie of pushing Eric like he's her idler. She refuses to allow this. Bill says he wouldn't let Brooke push Katie around like she does Eric. Donna wants all the fighting to end. Katie accuses Brooke of just speaking everyone and making allegations. She and Brooke agree to talk alone, and the others reluctantly leave them to it. Katie, how could you? Brooke says, criminating her of taking her name and Eric and nearly running him to the grave. That sets Katie off. She defends herself, and Brooke accuses her of just begrudging her and playing the victim. She says she stole Eric and didn't watch about his wheel. Was she trying to kill him? Brooke says that, after moment, Eric can no longer be her developer. It's over. Upstairs, the paramedics check Eric over and leave him with his son. Eric insists he can still make all of his own opinions. Ridge says he's been working like someone in his high. He's exhausted just allowing about all the work he's done. He no way meant to push him down. He's Forrester creation, so why was he looking for Spencer? Ridge asks him to come back to Forrester. He misses him. He can see he's angry. What does he have to do to be forgiven? In the design office, Elektra can hardly work on her lavaliers because she's so worried. Ivy tells her she might as well go home. Elektra can't believe this is passing. Her aunt says she only did what she had to do. She assures Elektra that all the blame is on Will and Dylan for being unhappy. Ivy tells her this isn't the first time he's let her down. Elektra has been staying for him to call. He can't condemn her for being worried. Ivy reprises she did nothing wrong, and she's appalled that Will asked Dylan to move back in. Her bastard appreciates her for trying to cover her. Ivy groans about the whimwamps of Dylan. She's glad Elektra put her bottom down and walked out. Elektra isn't sure it was the right thing to make and claim. Her aunt insists it was the Sandhouse. Dylan tells Will she can't thank him enough for all his compassion. She hates knowing this is causing issues for his relationship and can see how important he misses Elektra. He blames Ivy for all of this. She's ridiculous. Dylan says it hurt to realize Elektra doesn't trust them. They both allowed. She knew them better than that. Dylan goes out for a walk and watches Will on his phone through the window. She goes back by. He still hasn't heard from Elektra. Will assumes she's giving him time to pound over her ultimatum. Dylan is sure she anticipated it would be an easy decision. She hugs him and thanks him. He has to get to the office to settle this formally and for all. In the Forrester exchange, Elektra is packing up jewelry when she finds the ring that she first ran into Will with. She flashes back to all of their jewelry-related recollections. Will wanders in to say he's missed her. She sighs. She hates being down from him. He says this is insane and Ivy is ruining effects for them. Ivy hides in back and eavesdrops. Elektra demands to know if Dylan is at his house. She can't be with him if she still is. Will insists nothing happened. Elektra insists all that Ivy said Hap did, and she's sure he wouldn't want some Joe who poured living with her. It's Dylan or me, she says, raising her eyebrows. On Moment's emotionally explosive occasion of the Bold and the Beautiful, the Forrester manse came the center of heartache, treason and allegations that cut deeper than anyone anticipated. What began as a medical exigency for Eric snappily entwined into a family war that exposed long-stewing resentments and shifting commitment. As paramedics rushed to stabilize Eric after his breathing came labored, the weight of pride, heritage and undetermined pressure pressed down on every member of the family. Bill Spencer had been the one to call for help, refusing to take any chances when he saw Eric floundering. The sight of the fashion primogenitor heaving for air was enough to shake indeed Bill's generally imperturbable confidence. Upstairs, as a paramedic calmly explained that Eric's breathing was indeed labored and probably aggravated by stress, Eric bristled at the suggestion that he was fragile. He claimed the real problem wasn't his health, it was his family. He didn't want pity. He didn't want swimming. He wanted respect. Downward, feelings erupted in a way that made the medical exigency feel nearly secondary. Brooke, visibly shaken and fueled by fear, turned her wrathfulness exactly on Katie. Her voice echoed through the foyer as she indicted her family of pushing Eric too hard, of treating him like a idler rather of a man whose health was easily declining. Brooke's blameworthiness was sharp and merciless. Was Katie trying to drive him to the grave? Katie, formerly rattled by Eric's collapse, was stupefied. She defended herself, averring she had only encouraged Eric because he wanted to work. According to her, Eric thrived on creativity, gave him purpose. But Brooke wasn't hearkening. She indicted Katie of taking Eric's name, using his gift, and ignoring the risk it was taking on him physically. The recrimination was ruinous, that Katie watched further about status and professional gain than Eric's well-being. Donna tried to step between them, gashes welling in her eyes as she contended for calm. She couldn't bear to see her sisters tearing each other piecemeal while Eric lay upstairs floundering. But the damage was done. Bill, no way one to back down, advised Brooke not to bully Katie the way she had apparently pushed Eric. The blameworthiness soaked. Brooke shot back that guarding Eric wasn't bullying, it was love. Ultimately, Katie and Brooke agreed to speak intimately. Alone in the living room, their battle turned raw and deeply particular. Brooke indicted Katie of long harboring resentment, of always feeling overshadowed and now seizing her moment at Eric's expenditure. Katie fired back that Brooke always deposited herself as innocently superior while intimately manipulating everyone around her. The question hung heavy in the air: was Katie subconsciously chastising Brooke through Eric? Upstairs, Ridge remained by his father's side as the paramedics finished their assessment and left. Eric, exhausted but recalcitrant, reiterated that he wasn't unskillful. He'd erected an conglomerate. He was the heart and soul of Forrester Creations. Ridge's reason was sincere. He admitted he may have unintentionally pushed Eric down, especially by questioning his capability to lead and design. Eric confessed that what hurt most wasn't the workload, it was the lack of respect. Ridge's voice cracked as he asked what he could do to be forgiven. He admitted he missed his father at Forrester Creations. The company didn't feel the same without him. Eric's expression softened, but the wrathfulness hadn't completely faded. Pride and pain warred behind his eyes. Across city at Forrester Creations, another relationship was unraveling. Electra sat in the design office gaping blankly at the jewelry she was supposed to be finishing. Her Aunt Ivy tried to assure her, averring she had done the right thing by defying Will about Dylan moving back in. Ivy's perspective was firm boundaries matter, and Will had crossed one. Electra wasn't so sure. She loved Will deeply and issuing an claim felt extreme. But Ivy reminded her that this wasn't the first time Will's opinions had left her feeling secondary. The situation with Dylan wasn't just about cohabitation. It was about trust and respect. Ivy claimed that Electra had every right to demand that Will choose. Meanwhile, at the Sandhouse, Dylan expressed gratefulness to Will for his kindness and support. She abominated that her presence was causing disunion. She admitted it hurt to realize Electra didn't trust either of them. Will, frustrated, criticized Ivy for stirring dubitation. He claimed nothing unhappy had happened, but his moping silence from Electra's end counted heavily on him. When Will eventually brazened Electra in the Forrester exchange, the air was thick with undetermined craving. Electra had set up the ring that represented their first meeting, driving a flood tide of recollections that made the current pressure indeed more painful. When Will said he missed her, her voice softened. She missed him too. But love, she realized, couldn't survive without trust. Electra's claim was clear and unwavering: if Dylan remained in Will's house, she couldn't remain in his life. The comparison struck home. She asked him how he'd feel if a man who formerly participated intimate space with her suddenly moved by. Would he truly be comfortable? Will claimed nothing happened, but Electra combated that perception matters. Emotional boundaries matter. She refused to live in a constant state of mistrustfulness. As the occasion closed, both stories imaged one another in hanging harmony. Eric demanded respect just as Electra demanded commitment. Ridge sought remission just as Will faced a choice. And Brooke and Katie's contest underlined the fragile line between love and control. After the battle, Brooke stood alone in the dim living room, replaying her words. Had she gone too far? Fear had driven her fury, but fear could also destroy. Upstairs, Ridge remained seated beside Eric's bed. Realizing that respect wasn't commodity you demanded, it was commodity you demonstrated. In the exchange, Elektra awaited for Will's answer, her heart pounding. Ivy dallied in the murk, induced she was guarding her bastard. But protection and hindrance frequently look the same from the outside. The coming chapter promises seismic consequences. Will he ask Dylan to leave? Will Eric return to Forrester Creations on his own terms? Will Brooke and Katie's relationship survive another fracture? On the bold and the beautiful, love and fidelity are constantly tested in moment. Everyone was forced to decide what truly matters: utmost pride, power, or the people they cannot bear to lose. The pressure that had exploded inside the Forrester manse didn't dissipate when the shouting stopped. Rather, it dallied in the air like incense that had turned sour, adhering to every corner, every memory, every portrayal of once triumphs hanging on the walls. On the bold and the beautiful, heads no way truly end when the credits roll on a battle. They evolve. They consolidate. They expose trueness no bone is ready to face. After Brooke's blistering blameworthiness, Katie remained alone in the living room for several long twinkles, her breath uneven, her hands pulsing. The words "were you trying to kill him?" echoed in her cognizance. That was the moment the argument had crossed into commodity darker than stock contest. Brooke hadn't just questioned her judgment, she had questioned her humanity. Katie replayed every discussion she'd had with Eric over the weeks. Every time he claimed he was fine. Every time he brushed off prostration as alleviation. Every time he said designing made him feel alive. Had she pushed too hard? Or had she simply believed in him when others had misdoubted him? Upstairs, Eric lay propped against exaggerated pillows, the faint sound of Ridge pacing near the window emphasizing the silence between them. The paramedics advising dallied in Ridge's mind. Stress was a factor. But Ridge couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just about stress. It was about heritage. Eric eventually broke the silence. "You all talk about me like I'm fading down," he said still. "Like I'm formerly gone." Ridge turned, his expression stricken. "That's not true." "It feels true," Eric replied. "You question my stamina. You question my opinions. You question my applicability." Ridge swallowed hard. The word applicability cut deep. For decades, Eric had been the guiding force of Forrester Creations. He was further than a developer, he was the foundation. But in recent times, generational shifts, bold pitfalls, and competitive pressures had created subtle fractures between father and son. "I no way meant to make you feel small," Ridge said. "I was trying to cover the company. And I was trying to cover my place in it," Eric shot back. The honesty stunned them both. Downward, Donna set up Brooke, gaping out the window, gashes glistering but unshed. "You're spooked," Donna said vocally. Brooke jounced. "I allowed. I was going to lose him." Donna stepped closer. "Also tell him that. Not Katie. Him." Brooke closed her eyes. She knew Donna was right. Her wrathfulness at Katie had been fueled by fear, but fear doesn't justify atrocity. Across city, the emotional storm brewing between Elektra and Will boosted in the Forrester exchange. The polished marble bottoms reflected their simulated expressions, as if the room itself bore substantiation to their unraveling. Will took a slow step toward her. "You're asking me to choose between compassion and love." "I'm asking you to choose me," Elektra replied. Her voice cracked, and that small fracture revealed everything. She wasn't angry. She was alarmed. Alarmed that she wasn't enough. Alarmed that history would repeat itself and she'd formerly again be the woman who trusted too important. Will ran a hand through his hair, frustration underpinning. "Dylan demanded help. And you demanded to talk to me first," Elektra combated. "Partnership means discussion, not surprises." In the murk, Ivy's jaw tensed. She believed she was defending her bastard from heartache. But she also knew her presence was gasoline on an formerly blazing fire. At the sand house, Dylan stood by the ocean, the wind whipping her hair across her face as she scuffled with guilt. She had no way intended to disrupt a relationship. But gratefulness toward Will had evolved into commodity complicated. Commodity she didn't want to name. When she returned outside, she set up his phone on the coffee table. A communication announcement glowed on the screen, Elektra's name. She dithered. She didn't open it. But the sight alone verified what she formerly knew. She was standing in the middle of a love story that anteceded her. Back at the manse, Katie eventually climbed the stairs to check on Eric. Ridge stepped away to give her sequestration. Eric studied her face. I heard crying. Katie exhaled shakily. Brooke thinks I've been pushing you too hard. Eric's expression hardened. Brooke has always allowed. She knows what's stylish for everyone. Katie nearly smiled at that. Nearly. I no way wanted to hurt you, she rumored. You didn't, Eric replied forcefully. Designing isn't killing me. Mistrustfulness is. Katie's eyes filled. That was the core of it. Eric didn't sweat prostration. He stressed impertinence. Latterly that evening, Ridge set up Brooke alone in the hallway. You went too far, he said gently. Brooke didn't argue. I know. She loves him, Ridge added. In her own way. Brooke soughed. I just saw him heaving for air. And you saw someone to condemn. The verity soaked because it was accurate. Meanwhile, in the exchange, Will's voice dropped to a near tail. Still, will that fix this? If I ask Dylan to leave? Electra dithered. And that vacillation spoke volumes. It's not just about her leaving. It's about whether you understand why it matters. We'll step closer. I do'n't want to lose you. Also do'n't make me feel second, she replied. At that moment, Ivy stepped forward, unfit to stay hidden any longer. She shouldn't have to supplicate, Ivy declared. Will's tolerance snapped. This is between us. Electra looked between them, realizing commodity painful the further Ivy defended her. The lower space she and Will had to speak freely. Please, Electra said vocally. Let us handle this. Ivy dithered, also reluctantly retreated. Night settled heavily over Los Angeles. At the manse, Donna sat beside Eric as he drifted toward sleep. She watched the rise and fall of his casket with watchful tender-heartedness. You spooked us, she muttered. Eric opened his eyes. I'm not done yet. I know, she replied, brushing his hand with hers. Just promise me you'll laggardly down. He didn't answer incontinently, because decelerating down felt too important like rendition. Across the megacity, Will return to the sandhouse and set up Dylan's staying. She gave you an claim, Dylan guessed. He jounced. Dylan's casket tensed. Also I'll pack. Will looked surprised. You do'n't have to. Yes I do, she said still. Because if she loses you over me, I'll no way forgive myself. The immolation hung between them. Back at the Forrester manse, Katie sat alone at Eric's office in his study. She ran her fritters over sketches of forthcoming designs, bold lines, daring outlines. This wasn't the work of a delicate man. This was the work of someone who still burned with creative fire. But fire consumes. The coming morning would bring opinions. Would Brooke apologize? Would Ridge restore Eric's authority intimately? Would Will let Dylan go? Would Electra soften? On the bold and the beautiful, Duns reshape fates. Allegations fracture pedigrees. Love demands evidence. And tonight, every character lay awake defying the same fragile verity. Respect cannot be demanded. Trust cannot be assumed. And pride unbounded can destroy everything. Morning light filtered vocally through the altitudinous windows of the Forrester manse, illuminating a house that felt aged ever heavier. On the bold and the beautiful, the fate of an extremity is frequently more meaning than the extremity itself. Brooke stood outside Eric's bedroom door, her hand swimming elevation from the handle. She had rehearsed her reason all night. None of the performances sounded right. Fear had driven her words, but fear was no reason for atrocity. Eventually, she knocked gently and stepped outside. Eric was awake, sitting up with a sketchpad balanced on his knees. You're working? She asked vocally. I'm living, he corrected. The answer lowered her. I was wrong, Brooke admitted. I let my fear turn into blame. Katie didn't earn that. Eric studied her for a long moment. You were hysterical of losing me. Yes, she rumored. His expression softened. Also stay. Not as my protection. As my family. Downward, Katie broke when she saw Brooke descending the stairs. The pressure between them dallied, but commodity had shifted. Brooke met her eyes. We'll talk, Brooke said gently. Katie jounced. We will. Across city, Will watched as Dylan zipped her wallet closed. The sound felt final. He realized also